Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, my name is Nick, this is Board Game Brawl, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Cast and Capture and is from Randover Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to have a link at the bottom of the screen now, and at the end of the video, and also down in the description section of the video. That's going to take you to the official Kickstarter project page. You can find out even more information about Cast and Capture, and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, this game has players taking control of like wizardry students at an arcane academy, and you are trying to capture these wild creatures that are associated with the different elements. You have things like fire cats and earth dragons, things like that, and you have to use your spells in order to capture them, but sometimes it's not quite that easy and you have to blend your spells together, and sometimes you even have to blend the creatures together in order to capture them efficiently. Let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype version of the game. So some of the things you see, some of the artwork, and even some of the rules may not be totally final. This is just to give you a taste of what it's like. Then we're going to come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of Cast and Capture. This is a competitive game where each player takes control of a mage who is trying to capture different magical creatures out in the wild. This is your typical setup. Each player is going to start with 4 cards from the spell deck. Then you're going to have the creature deck with the green backs here, and you're going to have 3 cards from that creature deck face up next to the deck in a row. On your turn, you're actually going to be adding more cards into the creature lineup, but for now, you just start off with 3. Now, the goal of the game is to capture as many of these creatures as possible. The game is going to end when either the spell deck is empty and one player can no longer draw any more cards, or when every creature has been captured. Now, let me show you some of the different creatures. There's 5 different elements in the game. There's a bunch of creatures representing each of the elements. Up in the top corner, the number represents their power, and then the color, the background color of the card plus the symbol on the top symbolizes its element. So you have Lopsaru from the spirit, Kindle Kitten, which is the fire element, Earth Dragon, which is earth, obviously. You have the Cloud Charger, which is air, and the Draco Toys, which is water. But these are just some examples. There are many, many different types of creatures out in the deck. Out here we have a Living Blaze, a Spirit Sprite, and a King of the Sea. Now, as far as the spell cards go, which you're going to be using to capture those creatures, they all match up to the different elements as well, and they also have power ratings. So these cards go from 1 to 10 for each of the colors. You have Torrent of Fire, which is the 10 for fire, and then you have there's Breath of Air, and so on. They all have different names for each of the different numbers. You also have wild cards, which one of which can be used for any number, any power level, and one of which can be used for any element. Now, how this is going to work on players' turns, the first thing they do is they're going to add a new creature into the creature pool, and this is a communal pool that all of the players are going to be working with. And then you're going to do either one of 2 things. First is that you can try and capture one of the creatures in the lineup. I'll get to how that works in a second. But if you cannot capture one of the creatures, then what you must do is add a spell from your hand into the spell pool. I'm just grabbing one from the hand of cards I already had in my hand, not necessarily these. But now this is also a communal pool, meaning that other players may potentially use this spell, because how this is going to work, when you do want to try and capture one of the creatures in the lineup, you need to submit a spell with exact power and element that matches the creature that you're trying to capture. Now, this could be that you just have the perfect card in hand, meaning if I want to capture the King of the Sea, I have a blue card, a water card that is exactly 6 power. Well, okay, I can play that card and capture that creature, no problem at all. But sometimes, or many times, that's not going to happen. You may have a card that is 6 power, but it's the wrong element. Or you may have a card that is water, but it doesn't have 6 power. When that happens, then you need to blend a spell. In order to blend a spell, you have to play 1 card from your hand that has 1 element that you need. So if I needed a 7, these aren't going to match up, these are just examples, but if I needed a 7 power, or if I needed the earth element, I might play this card from my hand. Then I link it up with one of the cards from the spell pool. The first card can be from your hand, but the second card must be from the spell pool that both players are working from. So if I wanted to make a card that had the fire element but had 7 power, I would go ahead and make this combination, or vice versa. 5 power and the earth element. That is the kind of blended spell I would make. Then I would try to capture the applicable creature, which doesn't happen to be out here at the time, but if it was, I would be able to capture that creature. And when you use those spell cards, they go into the discard pile once they've been used up, the one that's from your hand and the one that is from the common pool. But the other thing you can do is actually blend creatures together. You can blend 2 creatures together in order to make one creature that you can try to capture all in one go. So I could put the Living Blaze together with the Earth Keeper and make it either an 8 power green creature, earth creature, or, well, actually, that would be illegal. Let me get back to that in a second. Let's say this was the combination. I can have a Spirit Blaze, which would be a creature with 2 power and the red fire element, or vice versa. I can have a creature that has 8 power but has the spirit black element. The reason why I said this was actually an illegal move is because regardless of whether you're blending spells together or you're blending creatures together, you could not have a common element between them. They must both be different elements. But if I were to be able to, if I wanted to combine these 2 creatures and I can actually come up with a power and element combination that works, I could capture both of those creatures at the same time, but you can only do that once. You can't keep doing that and blending different creatures together, more than 2 of them. Once you get done with that, potentially capturing creatures or just adding more cards into the spell pool, then you'll go to where you can actually get spell memorization, which is where if you have no cards in hand, you can draw back up to 4 cards. Then play is going to pass to the next player. That player is going to do the exact same thing. The game will end when either one player cannot draw any more cards from the spell deck because there are no more, or every creature has been captured. And at that point, every player is going to add up all the creatures they've collected. Whoever has the most is the winner. If there's a tie, it goes to the youngest player. That is Cast and Capture. Let's get to my final thoughts. Well, as hopefully you can tell in that overview of the prototype, Cast and Capture is a light card game, but with a surprising amount of depth. It all comes down to the whole element of blending the different spells together and then also potentially blending the creatures together as well. If it was only as simple as playing cards and trying to match up numbers, it wouldn't be nearly as intriguing, but the fact that you have to play your cards in just a special way and then also use the cards and potentially put them into your spell book instead if you can't do anything with the cards right away, that whole dynamic of the game really adds another layer to it. There's also the fact that the game, as far as thematically the game goes, it's going to appeal to a wide variety of people because it's a very family-friendly theme, and the game mechanisms are also easy to understand, which makes it a family-friendly game as well, but having enough bite to it that more gamerly gamers are going to be able to enjoy it, and everyone can get into a theme about trying to collect different monsters and creatures and cast spells. That's just something that's very universal, at least at this point in time, in geek culture. So I think that there's a decent amount of depth to the game, more than you would think, having to blend those spells together, deciding when to conservatively place down your spells as well into your book, and just having that theme together with it makes it a game that's going to appeal to a wide variety of gamers. So if you're one of those people who are intrigued by Cast and Capture, if you want to find out even more about it, I would encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. I'm going to have a link at the bottom of the screen and then down in the description section of the video. That'll take you to the page. Find out more information than I can tell you here, and then consider backing the project. That is Cast and Capture from Randover Games. My name is Nick. This has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.